proud to serve a school district with a mosaic of lived experiences, where 70 different languages are spoken, where we have 41% students of color, and where we have a significant population of students with IEP needs. I'm proud that our board has supported equity initiatives in our district to assist our educators in making their classrooms welcoming for all students. I'm also so grateful to our community for passing the 2024 referendum that our current board initiated with tons of community feedback for safety enhancements, STEAM classrooms, and a fully accessible, universally designed community auditorium, and I want to see its implementation through.
Thank you. Sandra?
Good morning, and thank you to the PTO President's Council for hosting this and for all of you for coming out today. My name is Sandra Bradford, and I've lived in Barrington for 24 years, and I have 3 children who attended Barrington schools. I am seeking re-election as a 220 board member so that I can implement significant projects such as the new community auditorium, the STEM spaces that I spoke about. Thank you again for your support. To fulfill Framework 220, our comprehensive district strategic plan, which will guide us for the next few years. And to maintain fiscal responsibility. We have a AAA bond rating and 28 consecutive years of a balanced budget. I have served in every office and spent 6 years on finance and 6 years on policy, and I've guided the district through some of its most challenging periods. As board president, I built stronger relationships amongst board members, and I'm proud of what we have accomplished in recent years. We are introducing the Special Education Parent Advisory Team in May. We brought you the kindergarten lab program at Barrington High School, which is one of the first of its kind in the country. We enabled the first ever district capital planning tool, which will allow the district to monitor and plan projects more effectively. If re-elected, I will provide continuity and expertise. I have and will continue to serve the community and our learners with love and kindness for all, regardless of the color of their skin, their learning style, or their abilities, or their God-given identity. I truly want to empower personal excellence in every learner, so please vote for me on April 1st and see Sandra for 220 for more information.
Thank you to the PTO President's Council for hosting us today. Excuse me. My name is Katie Karam, and I'm running for re-election for my 2nd term on the Board of Education. I was born and raised in Barrington. I'm a proud BHS graduate. I'm currently helping plan my 30th reunion. Please don't do the math on that one. I'm a former Wellsboro PTO member, and I have 3 children in the district. The learning curve for this position is steep, to say the least. It was made even more difficult during a divided time in our world when the focus was not on regular board business, but on the business of recovering from the pandemic. An effective board member must be able to understand that while all 7 of us do not have to agree on everything, we do have to listen to all stakeholders and work towards a compromise and the common goal of doing what is best for all of our students, staff, taxpayers, and community. We've accomplished much during my term on the board. The completion of the 2020 referendum work, passing the $64 million Transform 220 referendum, providing free full-day kindergarten, the development of Framework 220, establishing a long-term planning tool to help the board better plan and budget for major capital projects each year, prioritizing social media awareness, and bringing SROs to our middle schools. But I'm most proud of the work that has gone into making this board a productive reflection of the differing viewpoints throughout our district. I'd be honored to put to use what I've learned over the last 4 years and continue to make a positive impact for the community I love if re-elected.
We're going to go in alphabetical order.
Do you want us to switch? Should I switch? Easier?
Whatever you prefer.
Okay.
It's going to be mixed up later,
fine.
so.
We'll stay for that.
Hi, my name is Bharati Srivastava, and I am running for school board. So thank you all for being here, and also thank you to the President's Council. I am born and raised in the Chicago suburbs. I am born to immigrant parents, so I fully understand the value of hard work and also the importance of a quality education and how much it can bring not only to a family but to the community. So on that note, my husband and I chose this community to raise our 3 children because we were so impressed with all that the district had to offer and also thought it would provide them the best opportunities to thrive and succeed. My oldest daughter is in 5th grade in the extended program at Huff. My 3rd grader is at Countryside, and I have an almost 4-year-old at Noah's Ark who most likely will be enrolled in the dual language program. So we have seen all that the district has to offer. I'm running for school board because I'm committed to ensuring that all the needs of our students are being met, including those with IEPs and special education, the accelerated kids, and also those kids that are in the middle of the pack and that no child is left behind and they are ready for the real world, and also fill in gaps in regards to transition from school to school and decreasing the burden on on the educators. I will actively listen, collaborate, and effectively communicate with the community, and I'm a passionate advocate for physical and mental safety and find ways to expand and collaborate with already present community organizations such as Barrington Giving Day, Be Strong, and Be Smart for Kids. So I hope I can have your support, and you can find me at rockyfor220.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the PTO President's Council for holding this forum, as it is a wonderful opportunity for parents and taxpayers to hear different candidates' perspectives and get to know them better. My name is Deanna Stern, and I know many of you in the audience, as I have either having our children together in school or being on the PTO together and other volunteer opportunities. For those of you that don't know me, I have 4 children, 2 that are graduates in college, 1 high schooler, and 1 8th grader. I was a former special education teacher at one of the top high schools, Stevenson High School, and I have been in education in one capacity or another for over 25 years. I have my master's degree in educational leadership. What differentiates me from other candidates is I have been a substitute in Barrington 220 schools for about 9 years. And I've also worked at many other school districts in the area. I have witnessed firsthand the culture, climate, and learning environment of many school districts. I also am currently in my 5th year as being a trustee on the Barrington 220 Educational Foundation. In this role, I'm responsible for fundraising, just as I have done in prior PTO positions. We constantly strive to ensure and keep District 220 as being one of the best. Currently, with the concerns regarding special education in the school district, I feel this is the perfect time for somebody with my experience and background to join the school board. In addition, my passion for mental health and less device use is something that could really be an asset.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. For those of you I've not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Steve Wang, and I'm running for re-election for the Barrington 220 School Board. I'd like to start by thanking the PTO presidents for organizing this event, the Barrington Area Library for providing a venue, and those in attendance, as well as those watching virtually for your interest and commitment to 220. When I ran 4 years ago, I promised to be a voice for all constituents, fiscal responsibility, and academic excellence. Over the last 4 years, the district has taken significant steps in each of these areas, and thanks to my fellow board members for mentioning those examples, because I do think we've done a lot. So clearly, this administration and this board are on a very positive trajectory, and we have great momentum going forward. And I'll be honest, I initially did not want to run for re-election. I serve as the chief finance executive for a multi-billion dollar, not-for-profit healthcare system, and I also have a newborn son at home. So for those of you, if you hear a scream out there, my apologies in advance. But that said, I'm here because of the people in this room, including my son, who will be DHS class of 2043. As well, but also I'm here for those outside of here, including my daughter, who will be DHS class of 2032. And for all the demonstrated needs that they've shown, that's what we're doing the extra push. Like most school districts, we have well more demands than funds. And with the news yesterday suggesting further changes to the U.S. Department of Education, as well as a recently passed $64 million referendum, among other factors, we need expert financial leadership and executive level discernment, which I will provide. I'm ready for the challenge, and I just look forward to this forum so that I can illustrate my qualifications. Thank you all.
Thank you. We will now proceed to the roundtable questions, which is a series of 7 questions that will be asked of all 6 candidates in a random order. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond. The first question: what perspective and experiences do you have that will benefit the board and district? And which committees do you think you would be best suited for? We're going to start with Deanna.
Okay.
Well, let's see. So I was a special education teacher at Stevenson High School, and I also taught at many other local high schools in the school district or in the surrounding areas, District 211, U46. So I think my experience as being a teacher is valuable. I am currently a trustee on the Educational Foundation. I was also Barbara Rose PTO president. So I think all those roles make me a good candidate for this position. Thank you.
Aaron?
So my kids are our daughter is in middle school at Station in 6th grade, and our son is a sophomore at BHS. And we've taken the grand tour of the district. We live 3 minutes from Rose, but our kids have never attended other than Kids Club. They've attended North Barrington, Countryside, and Huff before Station and the high schools. I think that perspective has given me a good view of the district, as well as being on the board and being in all 8 of our elementaries, our ELC, our Barrington Transition Program, our 2 middle schools, and our high school. One of my first goals was to make sure that I set foot and took a tour of every building. I spent the last 4 years serving on our board policy committee, and that works hand in hand with our state legislature. So on the policy committee, we review policies every 5 years in our very, very thick policy manual. And we also, as different laws surface, as they change, as we have education mandates, of which there are many coming from the state, we look at our own policy. And it has been an honor to serve on that committee. I've also served 2 years on the district equity team, and for the last 2 years, our board has rotated meetings so that we all have a lens into the district equity team and the PTO President's Council. And so it has been great to get that lens as well. So I think that we really need experience, we need continuity, we need that perspective of all lenses and the collaboration with families from across our district. Thanks.
Thank you. For Russie.
I believe I have a wealth of knowledge, especially in my background. I am a nurse by trade. I have over 10 years of clinical nursing leadership experience with a master's in nursing leadership and an MBA, and have managed over 75 employees. So I excel at conflict resolution, interdisciplinary collaboration, and also fostering a collaborative environment and effective transparency and communication, as well as being involved in the community. I feel that serves me well. I serve as the PTO treasurer at Countryside. I'm also an active member of Barrington Giving Day, and also the lead for Barrington Be Smart for Kids, aimed at educating the community on safe and secure firearm storage. I feel I have many different ties to the community and understand the needs that need to be met, and I really want to focus on fostering those collaborative networking between the organizations we have and how we can really improve that in the schools and kind of work together more. And in terms of what committee I would excel at, I think I would enjoy being on the equity committee, and I feel that we can find better ways to implement equity with the PTOs as well, not just with the things we were doing with curriculum. So I feel like that's something that's lacking, is finding equity across all the PTOs and making sure that all the schools are receiving the same amount of benefits from their PTO.
Thank you. Katie.
One thing my family has taught me throughout the years is the importance of volunteering, and I know firsthand from my work on Brosnan PTO and Barrington Juniors Club, the volunteer work that goes into help keeping this district running. And this is a volunteer position and that we put a lot into. So I would say the biggest surprise, and I brought this up at many board meetings, is putting me on the facilities committee was probably the smartest thing they ever did. I now thoroughly understand what it takes to keep our buildings running and the time, effort, and financial impact that has for our district. The long-term planning tool that has been established this year lets us know from ground up, down to the faucets, the lights, the flooring, the roof, what we have for the next, I think it goes through 40 years, the timing that needs to be done. And I know we all don't want referendums every 5 years, so this is really gonna help us with that. I will say also, I'm gonna repeat this a lot. You have to be willing to have the hard discussions and compromise and meet in the middle. We are a varied community. We bring a lot of different experiences and backgrounds and beliefs to ourselves. And I am willing to have those hard discussions and compromise, and I think that is one of the most valuable things you have to have as a board member.
Thank you, Katie. Steve?
Thanks, Chris. So, from my standpoint, as I mentioned, I have 20 years of corporate finance experience. I've been at the executive level for many of those years. And, in addition to that, from a community standpoint, I serve as my daughter's Girl Scout troop leader. I am a volunteer at Campus Life, and I work with high school students. So I have experience, with students throughout the district. And, but that's just a few of the things I do. Where I think my value comes in is my ability to build relationships, just like we've done on this board, to make sure that we are, being collegial, we're making results happen, and, develop that trust and making sure that the results are conducive to the demands of our district. As far as committees, I have served on finance for the last 4 years. I believe we've done wonderful work with regards to making sure that we stay on plan. We are finding opportunities to save when able, and we're also able to develop ideas for innovative things. And as one of my colleagues mentioned earlier, we were able to provide full-day kindergarten 3 years ahead of the state mandate. I'm really proud of that. And as far as additional things down the line, I'd be happy to serve on finance, but I've also served on asset allocation, workforce management. I've assisted Barry with insurance and done others. As Aaron said, we do all serve on PTO and equity as well. So happy to serve wherever is needed and bring my experience back. Thank you.
Steve, Sandra.
Thank you. So as a parent, I enrolled my oldest in the dual language program. So I got to know the whole district, right? I had friends and still my best friends today came from across the whole district. So my first involvement in Barrington 220 was really the enrollment monitoring committee because there wasn't enough space in the schools to accommodate the dual language program. So that's how I began my service, was at the enrollment monitoring committee. Again, giving me a breadth of knowledge across the entire district. One of the best things they did for that committee was put us on a bus and we went to every single elementary school, and you really got to learn about the culture of each one of the schools. And I've, of course, since visited many, many times. I have served on the policy committee. I have served on the, when I served on policy, we actually had this opportunity because we switched over to a new system and we actually went through every single policy, which really was an incredible experience to go through every single policy. I also served on finance for 6 years. The one committee I haven't served on is the facilities committee, but these referendums have given me a wealth of knowledge about that. And I'm really excited about that planning tool that Katie spoke about. Other than that, my professional life, I'm an engineer by trade. I have 2 degrees, master's in business, so master's and a bachelor's degree. So I like to solve problems. So I think we've got a lot of that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question. What do you think are the biggest challenges facing the board at this time? And how do you plan to address them? We're going to start with Katie.
Okay, so if you had asked me that when I joined the board, I don't have a much different answer. Thankfully, we have worked to be in such a good place where we can get things done in our district. I would say a couple things probably, and we are working towards resolutions. One, I think we all know social media and cell phones are such a huge issue, and we have a committee now working on figuring out how, with students, parents, teachers, administrators, how to help our children navigate that difficult world and how to figure out how to limit the usage within our schools. So one, I think that's just a huge challenge in our world, but obviously filters down into our school system. I would say also, 17% of our students are part of the special education system, and I know we have a lot of work done there. We have established a special education parent council that will be starting in the fall and are working with parents closely to help make sure that our most vulnerable students are, we are fulfilling needs for every student in our population with the goal of, so those would be my 2 big ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Sandra?
Thank you. So the challenges I think we have in front of us are, federal funding that seems to be coming into question, and as Katie spoke about as well. We've got special education kids that are served with some of those dollars, so we'll have to get creative and figure out ways to continue those services should any funding be reduced. So again, I'm here, and I always have been here to support all the children in the district, so I'll make sure that all learners are taken care of. But we might have to get creative and make some witty solutions there. Communications, I think, is something that we've had a bit of a challenge with over the last couple of weeks and months, so we'll continue to work on that. The social media team that's been put together, that's been working on, they're establishing a baseline this year, and next year they'll come back with some recommendations. So I'm very excited to hear about that. We put together Framework 220 also, as I talked about before, is our strategic plan that will guide us. So those are our opportunities. We've got six areas of focus with Framework 220. We've got future readiness, community and partnerships, inclusive education, which we've already talked about a lot, health and well-being, where that's where the social media team comes in, personalized learning. I think it's very important to meet the needs of every learner where they are, and stewardship. Cannot stress that enough. You know, we have a strong reputation, 28 years of consecutive years of a balanced budget. We'll continue to uphold that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Aaron?
I think one of our biggest challenges and that we are working through right now is to help our families feel reassured when there are changes, especially to our delivery models, the way that they receive services. So one of the things as a board member is we are the connection between the community, the families, and the administration oftentimes. So for example, we have a SAS program that looked at, that serviced our students who had some behavioral issues, not quite ready for the gen ed population, not appropriate for them to be in outplacement. So when I was listening to a SAS parent, a dad, over the phone, his thought was, oh, it's gonna be a binary model, I'm not gonna have a choice. And I think that was not the case, right? Like the district wanted to meet with the family, to have a customized plan for him. So sometimes it's our job as board members to just listen, to make sure parents and families feel heard, and then to connect this parent with the services that he needs. And he felt reassured after talking with our special services, our student services, our superintendent. And so I think that we need to upfront reassure our families that we're going to walk through with them when there are changes, and this also speaks to the way that we communicate as well.
Thank you, Aaron. Steve?
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for the question. Let me just be clear and start by saying that I think we have a fantastic district. However, that said, like anything else, we have room for improvement. And so I think the biggest challenges we have, I will come back to what my colleagues have already said, communication is key. We've had some hiccups in the last few weeks, and we're working on those. I think academics is key. You know, obviously that's why we're all here to begin with. And so we have opportunity to improve there. And then finally, it's the financial piece of it, which is, you know, kind of my sweet spot. So I'll take these kind of individually. Communication, like I said, we have a plan. So I'm happy that we're doing that, and we're gonna try to implement it, and we'll get that fixed. Academically, you know, we need to look at certain things. You know, Aaron referenced the program that we have. I do think that we have opportunity to, you know, improve our communication, make sure that we put resources where they're needed, and ensure that those students, as well as the entire student population, is serviced appropriately. And then finally, finances. You know, I mentioned in my opening that the Department of Education might be seeing some changes, and therefore we will be seeing some changes from a funding standpoint. You know, it's going to be critical that we have the skill set on this board to make sure that we adequately look at the finances and make sure that we, you know, probably have to make some tough decisions, but make sure that we fund places that need to be funded and comply with federal laws. And so, you know, from my standpoint, that's where the key is. It's making sure that we look at things holistically, take on this challenge, listen to our constituents, and, you know, make sure three key things: that it's good for our students, it's good for our district, and that's sustainable. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Harathi?
I do believe that our district has wonderful things that we offer to everyone. I think hands down, the most important thing right now is the assault on our education from the Department of Education. And it's a fundamental right that everyone has access to education, and I think that should be our priority. So legal and more obligation to stand with the families that have special education needs, that we find ways to increase and keep the funding for all of the programs, including special education and other programs that we have, so I would not cut any of those programs, including Chinese immersion, dual language. I feel like our district could do better at expanding and promoting those programs so that our district can be a destination where everyone wants to come. We should be championing that, and that falls in line with Framework 220 on our equity initiative, so that should be something that we are focusing on as a whole. Also, in addition, communication and transparency and being more proactive versus reactive about issues that parents have and concerns. And really, as Erin said, I echo that we need to make sure that their voices are being heard and that we explain why we're making the decisions that we make, because a lot of what happens behind the scenes with the board, perhaps the public is not aware of. So I think they just want to know why we're making the decisions, and that is in the best interest of the students and the community.
Thank you, Deanna.
Okay, so based on what I'm hearing from the community and teachers as well, is special education, we need more social workers. I think right now we only have one social worker to every 485 students, so that's a concern. And it sounds like we might need some more special education teachers and more support staff for special ed. Based on the last board meeting that I heard from the president of the Teachers Association. And I was looking at some statistics. You know, it looks like we could spend a little bit more in the area of special education in our school district, so we can look at that, because I was comparing it to other unit school districts. I think another challenge is mental health and device use, the over-device use of in students. In our school district, especially at the younger ages, I'm hearing from parents that there's just too much device use. I mean, I don't know that a kindergartner needs to take an iPad at home and have it all the time. So, you know, I know the school district has Character Strong, which is social emotional learning, which is great. I'd like to see more of a parental connection with that, involving the parents in the community more. Even lunch and learns at the school district. We used to do that at Stevenson High School, and to teach teachers and staff about suicide prevention, depression, anxiety. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Empowering personal excellence for every learner is in the 220 mission statement. What does this mean to you? We're going to start with Steve.
Yeah, that's a good question, Chris. You know, I was actually, in my studies, I was looking at that exact mission statement myself yesterday evening. And for me, that just means that we put the students in the most, reasonable position to be successful. For some kids, that means going to college. For others, it means finding a trade school. And for others, it means something completely different, and that's okay. What we need to do is make sure that our kids are prepared to face the world when they're done with VHS or with our transition program. Making sure that they have all the tools necessary, the maturity, and the lessons needed to be functional adults and to be contributors to this society and to this village. We owe it to them as our Board of Education. So that's my answer, simply. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Deanna?
Okay, so I mean, this goes, our school district we have AP programs, we have honors programs, we have trade programs, we have the culinary internship program, thanks to the Educational Foundation, we have horticulture. I think we are doing a great job of providing all different opportunities for our students. And empowering personal excellence in every learner. Students that have an IEP, they have an individualized education program that is designed specifically for them and it meets their needs. So, we're doing that as a school district, as every school district should as well. Thank you.
Katie?
So one of the greatest things about Barrington is, and maybe challenges, is the fact that we're a unit district. So we have to service children from the Early Learning Center all the way through the Barrington Transition Program. So empowering excellence in the 3-year-olds through adults. Honestly, I think where we could help some help is meeting the children in the middle. We do tend to have great programs on the top end and the bottom end, and sometimes the kids that are just riding along the middle could use a little bit more help. That also comes down to transitions between schools. I think we need work helping children get through from grade school, the transition to middle school, and then the transition to high school. But with that being said, I think we're also putting in some great programs at the high school with real world experience. Not every child is gonna go to college, as we've talked about. The culinary program is a great example of that. So I just think it means meeting every child where they are and helping them get through their entire time here at through D220.
Thank you. Arathi?
I believe that there is still work to be done to empower all of the kids for personal excellence. The number one way we can do that, I feel, is to ask the kids. I feel like maybe we're not involving them as much as we could in the decisions that are being made regarding curriculum or programming or other opportunities. I was speaking with a parent who actually chose to remove their kid from the district because they really wanted their middle schoolers to have access to a debate program. And they felt that that skill is something that would serve them better in life as a whole, not just regarding just education. So something specific to that, is that something that we are aware of as a district? So just continue to expand what's available and champion all of the opportunities that we do have in our district. I am a board member on the Barrington Council for Gifted and Talented, and it's something that, it's a nonprofit that works at collaboration and offering expanded opportunities to the kids in the district, and it's all funded through donation mostly, and we do offer some grants to provide transportation for Scholastic Bowl and to offer field trips and things like that, and I don't think that that's something that the community is even aware of. So it's something that connection is missing, so if we wanna continue to empower students to be involved in all of these programs, we need to have a better connection with those organizations.
Thank you. Sandra?
Thank you. So for me, empowering personal excellence is really meeting the students where they are and meeting their needs. Over my tenure, we have introduced several programs across elementary age. We've introduced the Chinese immersion program. We have improved on the dual language program. We have improved extended program at each of the elementaries because it's very exclusive how you can get into the extended self-contained at Hub. So we've really tried to amp up learning across all of the elementary schools. At the high school, last year we introduced GEM, which is Grow, Excel, and Magnify, which allows students to really pick what they want to study. One student that I spent some time with is a dancer, so everybody here knows I've got a background in dance, so no surprise I chose to talk with her, but she used her English and her math curriculum to create and learn what she wanted to go deeper dive into that subject area. So it's a real opportunity for the students to learn. Flexible learning, we've improved across all the grade levels. The number of dual credits you can get at the high school and the certifications you can get about. You already heard about culinary and horticulture, and our partnerships with the Ed Foundation are excellent to help us and helped us get to those places. And really multimodal learning as well. We don't just learn on the iPad. We learn with the iPad, we learn print materials and tactile learning as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And Aaron?
So empowering personal excellence in every learner, for us and for my kids, it's meant Chinese immersion, it's meant extended self-contained for my son, and a variety of experiences. But when I think about this, I think about this story. I don't know if you know, but we have a farm right by Hard Road across from the high school. This is part of our horticulture program and agricultural pathway. And last June, some of us board members, thank you Leah who organized this, who's in the audience, we went out and partnered with our teachers. There were students, current students, seniors who loved this program so much. They came back and were driving tractors and getting rakes out for us, and we were planting pumpkin seeds and we were planting corn. I brought my kids out to volunteer and say, look at the resources that we have. And I met this senior named Aiden. He had actually already graduated. And Aiden said, you know, I'm just a city boy. I'm a suburban city boy. And I'd never really set foot on a farm. And then I joined the agricultural program and I fell in love with farming. And so now he's in college and he's getting a degree in forestry. He wants to join the Department of the Interior and work in agriculture and work with the soil. And to me, this is empowering personal excellence in every learner, because without our program, without his experience in our high school, Without the influence of our educators, he would have never discovered this pathway for himself.
Thank you. Our next question is, what has the board done well in the last couple of years? And for incumbents, what are you most proud of having done? We're gonna start with Deanna.
I think Framework 220, the strategic plan of the school district. We have, 6 components: personalized learning, which is in progress; future readiness, which is in progress. You can see this all on the website. Inclusive education. They have implemented professional development and hiring practices that has been implemented. The health and well-being, the social emotional, which is Character Strong, has been implemented, and social media awareness committee. Community partnerships. I think Barrington 220 has always done a great job, especially in conjunction with programs like the Educational Foundation and all the wonderful PTOs. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. Sandra?
Thank you. So what has the board done well? I think this, the last 4 years, the board has worked very, very hard on healing, right? Healing with each other and healing with the community. We've strengthened our relationships. We take social outings with each other now, which we didn't used to do before. And we began rotating through some of the committees, and Aaron, you mentioned that as well. So we have learned how to collaborate and work well with each other, right? We also have passed 2 referendums in the past 4 years. So I think we're really doing a great job with the curriculum and with the Character Strong you've heard about, our social emotional learning, but we also needed to update our facilities. And I thank you again to this community for passing the most recent referendum and for forcing us to make sure that we gave you the right information to do so. So we've done a lot over the last several years, and I would like to continue to be able to lead to do some more.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandra. Aaron?
So I am so proud that we have implemented, starting this academic year, free full-day kindergarten. There is no study out there on early childhood education that says that investing in it is a negative thing. It's all been positive. So because we've done this, we have doubled the time that our kindergartners are learning math. We've doubled the time that they're learning literacy. We've expanded their social studies time. And our kindergarten teachers have come to the board and said, thank you. Thank you. They don't have to squeeze in our kids who have IEPs and 504s. They don't have to squeeze it into a half day. They can use the entire day to learn. And there's more playtime because they're 5. And playtime is great. And time for specials. I'm really proud that we've integrated 2 sections of K-Lab kindergarten in our high schools. We had the chance to spend time with our K-Lab students, and they are so proud. Like, you walk in and they're like, welcome to K-Lab, and then they walk around the high school like this is their school, and it is. And the high school students are so well behaved around our kindergartners, and they come in, not just the ones in the education pathway, but chemistry classes will come in and do experiments, culinary classes will cook with our kindergartners, and it is such a beautiful thing to see. And also it saves people $3,700.
Thank you. Steve?
Thanks, Rob. The detriment of not being first is that a lot of your answers are taken. But you know what, I'll just recap. I think I agree. Framework 220 has been a big win. Bill 220 with the surplus, completing that was a big win. Having now Transform 220 in front of us, getting 2 contracts done with the DEA and the SEO respectively, having a balanced budget, continue our AAA rating, improve community engagement, work with our board unity that Sandra mentioned, having 2 superintendents come in, freaking out capital by getting rid of some properties we weren't using, expanding programs such as culinary and GEMS, hiring 2 new SROs, having the social media initiatives, having improved budgeting as well as capital planning processes, and full day kindergarten, to name a few. But all that said, yes, thank you. But all that said, you know, I think the key is, as I just started with, it's been the fact that we've been able to work as a unit. You know, we have 7 very distinctly different individuals on this board with different perspectives, but we found commonalities. We've made our way to being friends. You know, I feel like I'm saying that right, but I think we're friends. You know, Sandra and I took a trip to Indiana this year because well, they did St. Louis Purdue, and I love Notre Dame, but you know, I won't hold that against her. Anyways, you know, we've found ways to make things work, and you know, that's probably the biggest compliment I would say. So thank you for that, and thank you for it.
Thank you, Steve. Katie?
Well, Steve's right, the good ones are gone, but. I'm gonna say, we don't wanna sound like a broken record, but I cannot overstate the work that the 7 of us have put into becoming a functioning board that this community deserves. And that took a lot, and, I'm really proud of that. And then I don't think anyone would, I'm going back to my long-range capital planning tool, I don't think anyone would know I'd be so into this. But, you know, we have over 1.4 million square feet under roof, that's over 200 acres that we maintain. It's the equivalent of 700 homes. The estimated value is $779 million. And like I said, nobody wants another referendum. So we have worked very hard as a board to figure out a plan to increase our capital project spending budget. And that is something over the next 5 years. We traditionally spend about $2.5 to $3 million each summer on building improvement. And we have, as a board, agreed to increase that spending so that we can maintain our buildings and we don't have to keep coming and asking for money for major projects. I know everyone's excited for the gymnasium at the high school to get air conditioning, so you're welcome for that.
Katie? Barathi?
I believe I'm last, so yes, all the good things have been taken. I would say one of the best things the district has done is to continue to promote diversity and expand on the curriculum that we already have, things that they've started new, like the Grow Your Own programs, which ties into our diversity initiative, and that's where they're having high schoolers that eventually graduate out into college to come back and try and recruit them back to be educators in the district. And I think that's a really positive thing, full day kindergarten. And also we have one of the lowest tax rates in the surrounding community at only 4% compared to Stevenson, which is roughly 7%. So I think they're investing in our students and into the surrounding community while making sure that we're utilizing our taxpayer dollars.
Thank you, Barathi. Next question. A board priority is maintaining a balanced budget. Where would you increase or decrease spending, and how would you balance this? We're going to start with Deanna.
Okay, well, I guess you guys can guess what I'm gonna say. I think we should increase, spending in regards to special education, because I think we need to support, all of our students, and including, support service staff. So I, you know, like I said, I was doing some analyzing this morning, and I think we could, you know, enable that within our budget. And to ensure that those students, because one of the board meetings in the past, I heard some parents saying that there was large gaps between our students with special needs and the mainstream students. So we could do that to support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. Harathi? Of course, a board priority is maintaining a balanced budget. Where would you increase or decrease spending, and how would you balance this?
As far as I'm aware, the budget's been balanced for over 20 years, and that's something that the board, I know, is very proud of. I would continue to invest in our students and capital improvements. I would not eliminate any programs and remain consistent with class sizes. So I would ensure that our educators still are able to provide all that they're doing with the class sizes. And also I would find about 80% of our budget goes towards the educators so that there's only a little bit of money that obviously remains. And also not be reliant, 4% of our funding I believe comes from federal funding. So we need to be more reliant on local government and what we can do and be proactive. So in terms of where I would, cut funding, it would be minimal cuts on like maintaining equipment or textbooks, or decrease the amount spent on hard goods, or be more frugal with replacing old items so that we can maintain consistency in class sizes and also not cut any of the wonderful programs that we have. And I think we could be possibly a little more creative to ensure that enrollment numbers are increasing for programs like Chinese immersion and dual language, and also the K-Lab, if that would help, cut costs. So if we had a third K-Lab class, instead of having kindergarten classes with only 14 kids at some of the schools. So I think we can just be a little more creative with the ways that we are funding our program.
Thank you, Harathi. Katie?
Well, I do feel like I just answered this in my last one. So as Harathi said, about 74% of our budget goes to salaries and benefits, 9% goes to transportation. So we're not talking about a large slice of the pie here that we get to finagle to move money around. However, and you know, a lot of times I think we think that if we are going to have to make cuts, then it's gonna start with programming, and I think this board has worked hard to make that not the case. So obviously I do think our facilities budget could use a little bit more funding, and we've been working hard at figuring that out through purchase services and other ways to make those cuts so it doesn't affect class sizes, programming, and other issues. So.
Katie? Aaron?
Yes, so we have about 4.5% of our federal funding, of our budget, operational budget comes from federal funding. I think it is important we partner with area organizations like LUDA, which advocates for large districts, EdRed, which does research and development for suburban districts. A lot of us board members have gone to III, which is the Illinois Association of School Board annual meeting every year. And we have, as districts together, so we will advocate for continued funding for Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act, which funds a lot of our special education and social services. So I think that funding, Title I funding, National School Lunch Program, it's important for us to continue to advocate and to protect that funding. We have been really aware of the temperature in our community as well. For 3 years, we did not issue bonds through DSAG, which is a debt service extension base, and that saved our taxpayers $7.5 million over 3 years. At the same time, when we looked at cuts, this year when we were budget planning in committee of the whole, we decided to try to not increase spending on purchase services, which will also save us $1.4 million. So there are ways to continue to provide our robust resources, continue to add high quality staff without cutting our programs and staff.
Thank you, Aaron. Sandra?
Thank you. So, having served on the finance committee, it was really important to maintain a balanced budget to me. And one of the things we did while I was on the finance committee is we started doing our DSEB borrowing that Aaron just spoke about, borrowing it again from ourselves. So that saved us tens of thousands of dollars. I think that fortunately and unfortunately, I've been through several budget reduction cycles with this community and this district. So we know how to go about doing that and prioritizing the needs of the students first. We have got some great programming. I'm in favor of keeping as much of the programming as possible. I think we do need to validate enrollment for each of the programs as well, because you can't keep adding and adding and adding without taking something away. So we have to do that very smart, and we have to do it with data and educate the community and ourselves on what steps, if any, we need to take. We spent time with the Framework 220, really looking at a learner profile, not just rigorous academics, but all of the things that our learners need to learn about. Creativity, communication, practicing empathy, and thinking critically, solving problems. So all those things are very, very important. We need to make sure we keep all that in our curriculum as well. We have a rigorous curriculum cycle as well, 7-year cycle, where we plan, implement, and then review. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Steve?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I echo what folks have already said. I mean, it's critical that we maintain a balanced budget and make sure that we don't, generate a deficit. That would be, very detrimental to our ability to, stay a going concern. As far as investments goes, I agree. We need to continue investing in our students. We need to continue investing in our educators. We need to continue with all the things that make Barrington unique. As far as decreases, I don't know that we necessarily have a whole lot of areas. I mean, so many others, as we've already mentioned, that approximately 83% of our, funds are already encumbered, and that's a fact. So we really only have 17%. And so, Robbie's, you know that I agree, from my own, corporate work, what we do is we make sure that cash flow changes. So in other words, we don't cut. What we do is we make sure that, if a piece of equipment can be used for an additional year, we do that. If we can delay a contract, we do that. If we negotiate contracts, we'll do the same. And we'll make sure that the students that are in this district, have the ability to maintain our mission that Chris quoted earlier, which is empowering excellence in each student. The thing that I would point out too is that, yes, it's going to be critical that we work with our constituents as well as our local government. With, unknown changes forthcoming, we have to make sure that we provide, transparency, communication, and, taking advantage of every possible resource we can. I'm really proud that this past budget cycle, we talked about additional revenue opportunities because, unlike most businesses, you can't pass on our costs. Sorry, thank you.
Steve? Next question, what specific factors will you consider to inform your decisions when casting your vote on board issues? We're going to start with Haraki.
Yes, actually. Chris, can you repeat the question?
I sure can.
Sorry.
What specific factors will you consider to inform your decisions when casting your vote on board issues?
I think the biggest key factor is to ensure that we are involving all stakeholders, that including the community, the educators, the parents, the families when making decisions. And being a nurse, I am fully invested and passionate about using data. So I think that a lot of our decisions need to be data driven, and we need to use the data to help us guide our practices. And one of the most important things is effectively being an active listener when collaborating with the community members, but also with the rest of the board. So we need to be able to hear all sides of everyone's concerns about the issues, and that's how we can work to collaborate to make a decision that reflects what everyone needs in our community.
Thank you, Haraki. Aaron?
So what I do in my paying role is that I am a freelance journalist, so I ask a lot of questions. And those of you who've attended board meetings know that I ask a lot of questions, sometimes multi-part questions, so I'm trying to keep it to two-parters. So I think that is key before making a decision, before voting, is there more information that I would need to know to make an informed decision? And then going to everybody involved, the person closest to the decision who might have that lived experiences, our educators, our administration. We've delayed votes before on the board because we didn't feel like we had enough information, and we went back to Dr. Winkleman, and he would go back to his staff and say, hey, can you get the board this information? And so we're trying to not overtax them with our questions, but we do ask additional questions when it's necessary. So I think that is key to make sure that we're well informed and not just cast a vote based on emotion or based on what we're feeling or what we think is best for us, but to take every stakeholder, all constituents, and make sure that we're making the most informed decision possible.
Aaron, Deanna?
Hi, okay, so, being an educator, talking with administration, talking with teachers, I've been in different schools, so I've seen firsthand the culture, of students and their needs and things like that, so I think that's very important to hear from teachers and administrators, in addition to parents and the community, taxpayers. I mean, we have to listen to the community. I think it's also important that I have 2 students in the district currently. I have a high schooler and an 8th grader, so I know a lot of people in the community. And just being aware of what's going on in the schools, what the needs are, and, hearing from everybody, as everyone is saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. Sandra?
yes, I mean, data, community input, hearing from our staff, hearing from, the administration and the students is very important whenever we're making a decision. It depends on what the decision is, right? You've got to collect the right amount of data. So, just we heard recently from the Social Awareness Committee that's been working, and they came back, the first thing they said was, we needed to add more students. They know so much in this area, so we changed that input group and we've added more students to hear their voice and get their expertise, because they're wiser than us at this. Also, a quick story with the referendums, right? In 2019, we had a failed referendum. And one of the reasons that referendum failed was because we, as a board, didn't get to the community the needs of the auditorium well enough, right? So when we came back to community in 2020, we said, we know we didn't, not only did we not tell you enough, but we needed to tell you more. So we invested some dollars from the 2020 referendum so we could educate ourselves and the community more about what we needed with respect to a new auditorium. And so that's what you saw in the 2024 referendum, was that study. We had over 60 community members that came and got together to look at what we were gonna offer up for the 2024 referendum. We had architects, we had experts, and we're gonna make this auditorium the most accessible auditorium. We'll make it a place that, for all of us in our destination district.
Thank you, Sandra. Steve?
Thanks, Bob. And I agree, we need one more mic next time. This is a complicated question, and what I'll share is that, I've done lots of studies on businesses that have failed over the years, and one key thing that causes failure is that you don't listen to your consumer. And so I think it's critical that when you make a decision, you're listening to your consumers. So for us, that's our educators, that's our students, that's our parents, that's our taxpayers. We need to listen. We need to ask questions. We need to take feedback. And we need to be prepared to be honest with ourselves and admit when we make a mistake. And we also need to be able to be humble and take that advice and be cognizant of the decisions we make and the ramifications we're gonna have. And so I said this earlier, but I think it's critical that we make sure that we listen and make sure that it's right for everybody. Number one, right for our parents, right for our students. Number two, right for the folks who can support, so our administration, our educators. And finally, we have to ask ourselves, is what we're doing sustainable? Can we make this, something that can last for the next 100 years? And if not, what can we do to make it so? For me, that's the key here. And, I talk about, having tough decisions, having tough choices to make, and this is just part of it. We just cannot, as Sandra said, we cannot make decisions in a vacuum, and we need to make sure that we engage with everyone that's involved. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Katie?
Well, to echo what everyone said, we are tasked with being the voice of the community, so that does mean taking in the opinions of all stakeholders, educators, students, taxpayers, community members. And the reality is, surveys have maybe gotten a bad rap in our community over the last few years, but one example that we've just recently had, there's been some calendar changes, whether or not you're in favor of them, we don't need to talk about, but we have decided as a board that there's another calendar change coming up, and we're gonna go back to the community and get input. And, I've learned over the 4 years, votes definitely have not always gone my way. Once a survey is done and the community feels one way, if the majority, that is how I will vote. So we are the voice of the community, that is who we're representing. And if a vote doesn't go your way, it's our job to move on the next day and be productive and move on to the next item. So, hopefully you guys will jump back on the survey board, the survey train, and really we'd love your input, because that's what really matters.
Thank you, Katie. And for our last roundtable question, as a school board member, how will you engage authentically with students, families, and the community, especially those who face barriers to participation? And we're gonna start with Katie.
Sorry, can you?
Of course. As a school board member, how will you engage authentically with students, families, and the community, especially those who face barriers to participation?
anyone who approaches me, calls me, texts me, emails me. I have made it a priority to respond to every email that I can as they come in. So the role of a school board member is an interesting one. As actually Barry, we've talked about this a lot. We are on the balcony, not the dance floor. So when a community member comes to me with an issue, it is my job to help them figure out where they need to go to get the answer that they need or the resolution that they need, and help facilitate that for them. So I'm always willing to chat to anyone who has a problem or an issue, and always willing to help direct you where you need to get to help make it right.
Thank you, Katie. Steve?
Yes, thanks, Chris. Yeah, Katie hit on that. Our job is not to share our own personal opinions, it's to reflect our community. And so it's critical that we engage our community, engage with all stakeholders, and make sure that we reflect their needs. We don't need to agree with it, we don't need to like it, we just need to be able to respond accordingly. And as Katie mentioned, we're typically the communication path between administration and parents. And so, similar to Katie, I've always made a commitment to read and emails received, meet when folks ask to meet. I make an effort to go to community events so that I'm available. I was at a conference yesterday, and folks were telling me that they were not able to go to the grocery store because of some decision I made, and I never want to be in that position. I never want to be in a position where, folks can't approach me. I will rise to my positions to make sure that I'm available, and I will engage with, everyone, regardless of whether I agree or disagree, because again, my opinion is really not important here, it's the community members, it's what they need, and it's my job to ensure that I communicate that accordingly. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Sandra?
Thank you. I'm just gonna tell a quick story. So middle school conferences, was there with my child, and because you're setting up your schedule for the year. And there was a student that I knew pretty well, and they could sing very, very well. And they didn't have choir on their schedule. And their parent didn't speak English, so there was a barrier. So I made sure that I took this child and walked them to the counselor's office and explained what this child needed. So I think just being aware and listening, right? We've heard it from everybody so far. It's very important as a board member to listen and advocate for those who might have barriers. We have posted on our website now communication protocol to help ourselves and to help community members understand when they might be facing a barrier, who they can go talk to, who's the best person to talk to. We talked about kindergarten enrollment a lot this year, and really, if your child is gonna start kindergarten, go talk to your principal. Your principal can help you and determine what the best path is for your child. So open and wanna listen, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandra. Harathi?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it again? I apologize.
Of course. As a school board member, how will you engage authentically with students, families, and the community, especially those who face barriers to participation?
I believe that we already spoke about how about 40% of our district are the people of color, population at Sunny Hill, majority of whom, in light of what's been going on, I've actually been to connect with, and I think it's a struggle that we face. In my previous career as a nurse, I would deal with a lot of patients who didn't have family, didn't have outpatient support, didn't have anyone to go over proper education on discharge instructions or how to follow up, and I feel like that ties pretty well with being on the school board in terms of listening to the community, but also understanding what resources people need when they're at school, when they're not at school. Are we doing enough to have open dialogue with even our emails that we send out? Are we offering them in Spanish? Are we offering interpreters? Are we offering Zoom meetings with I feel like there's just more that we can do in terms of engaging those people that aren't able to access. And we have organizations that we can work with in the community. At Barrington Giving Day, when we have our winter event, they have an interpreter that goes with them at every station to make sure that they have everything that they need. So what more can the board do to connect and that barrier of making sure that everyone is being heard?
Thank you, Harathi. Deanna?
I like what Rafi said earlier regarding, to equality of all the PTOs. I feel like, you know, there's all different neighborhoods, there's all different PTO organizations. When I was co-president with Jolie for Barbara Rose, we were fundraising, and I said, hey, you know, I don't think Sunny Hill, like, has a strong PTO, can we do something? So we were fundraising, and we, gave a piece of playground equipment to Sunny Hill. So I think we could do something in regards to PTOs and kind of collaborate, and how can we, you know, make it a little bit more equitable in that regard. Barrington Youth and Family Services and Be Strong, I would like to bring those into the schools more. You know, I'm not aware of how much they really are in the schools. I know, you know, Be Strong sends out a newsletter, but just to incorporate that to kind of help everybody in the community.
Thank you, Deanna. Aaron?
So you asked in particular about students who had barriers. One of the experiences that has been incredibly impactful for me as a board member, I had the opportunity a couple of years ago to go with several administrators to Harvard College, and we attended a session called The Suburbanization of Poverty. And part of this night involved a role-playing exercise. It was an hour long. We were each given a role. I think I was a grandpa who was taking care of an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old. Other people were, you know, a teenage parent who's 16 and trying to go to school and has a newborn. And so there were tables set up around the Harvard gym, different agencies. There was a grocery store. There were wraparound services, basically. And so we had all of these impediments. It was designed to give us a lens into what it's like if maybe English isn't your first language, if you're living below the poverty line, what it's like to access services. And we do have a school that has 86% of our kids on free and reduced lunch, and I think it was eye-opening that our kids need to be fed well, they need to be sheltered and loved in order so that they can thrive.
Thank you, Aaron. We will now proceed to the selected response questions. This is a series of questions also gathered from the community. Each question has been randomly assigned to 2 candidates who will have 90 seconds to respond. After both assigned candidates have responded, any candidate can use their 1 rebuttal for a 60-second rebuttal. Candidates, please raise your hands if you'd like to use this. You do not have to use your rebuttal. The first question is, what strategies should the district implement to increase parent involvement? And this goes to Harati.
I think that there are a lot of ways that we can increase parent involvement. A lot of the times our district, I feel, is a little bit more reactive instead of proactive. So besides multiple emails and surveys, I think we can have more fireside chats, more community engagement prior to making big decisions. So if there's ways to incorporate that at varying times throughout the day. This is a good turnout, but I feel like this is probably not a convenient time for people to be here. So if this could have been live streamed, that would have probably engaged the community a little bit more. And I'm just offering a suggestion. But I think just understanding that a lot of, since we are so diverse, there's a lot of people that work different jobs or have different, even access to internet or availability to get transportation to come to these events. So to find ways to engage with them and ask the community what they need from us. So what, besides surveys, to really engage. If it's a back to school night at our PTOs, maybe that's something that the district can get more involved in and engage in the community events that are already being done.
And our second candidate for this question is Aaron.
Yeah, we talked, for example, on the district equity team, we just had professional development for all of our educators, K through 12, a full day of culturally responsive teaching, how to make your classroom the most welcoming that it can be for all of your students. There was a communication out about Ramadan, not just that Ramadan is being celebrated, but how it might affect your students. And so we talked on the team about, you know, a lot of families are gonna wanna engage with some of the professional development that we're doing, about learning each other's lived experiences, about more of the development that maybe our educators are doing and also open it up to our community. I think this involves holding more parent universities, more ways for people to be involved. We have a social media and digital citizenship task force that's been mentioned before that has a lot of student involvement, and we're also seeking parent input. I think that might be next up because it's very popular, but I think always need to be seeking parent input and saying how can we take this that is really great at our school, like culinary classes, right, and offer them maybe as a night class. I want to audit every class at the high school, honestly, except maybe calculus.
Any rebuttal? If not, we'll go forward. What are your thoughts about the use of technology in the classroom? And this question goes to Katie.
Okay, well, we've touched on this. I mean, let's go back. So obviously during the pandemic, use of technology skyrocketed, and it was a blessing and maybe a curse on the other side of it. So our children did unfortunately become dependent on it because it was a necessity at the time. I understand, and our Wonderful program is amazing, and I do think that obviously it is a tool that is necessary. Deanna has brought it up. I would love to look at ways for our children not to be dependent on it at all times. So perhaps more use of paper, more use of actual books. Definitely cell phones out of the classrooms. I am a huge proponent of that. I mean, whether or not your cell phone has to stay in your backpack or in the basket on the teacher's desk. I would love to see our children be able to focus on actual learning as opposed to all the things around them in the social media world.
Thank you, Katie. Sandra.
Thank you. So one of our tenets of the Framework 220 is future readiness, right? So the technology is important. It's important for our students to be able to understand and to communicate and to be able to use technology. Each of the classrooms has keyboards that are available to them too. I know I was a huge proponent of maybe let's not move to all iPads, let's keep the PCs for a while. But the administration convinced me that the rich technology and curriculum is better in the iPads. But we do allow the keyboards as well. The social media group that we have that we've already talked about several times, we're gonna learn a lot there, and we're gonna get input from the parents to help us, and from the students again, to help us make sure we know what's best for our community. I also wanna emphasize again the multimodal learning we have. It's not all on the iPad, right? It is not. There is tactile learning and there is printed materials, so students are getting a mixture. When I was able to visit the K-Lab at the high school, I didn't even see the iPads at all, which is one event, but it's just an example. It was very tactile in the learning. It's very, you wanna see that 3 + 3 makes 6.
Thank you, Sandra. Any rebuttal before we move forward? Our next question, how do you feel about the current ratio of district administrators to classroom teachers in the classroom? Would you propose any changes? This goes to Deanna.
Wow, this is a hard question, because I support educators and administrators. I know we just recently approved another administrator, and I know at the board meeting, they, held up statistics of how many administrators and, different, districts as well, and so that we're kind of compared to a lot of other districts, so we don't have an excess of administrators. But I think, administrators are paid a lot. I would prefer one less administrator and more teachers and support staff. Sorry, but.
Thank you. Steve.
Hey Chris, can I tell you to repeat the last part of the question?
Of course. I'll repeat the whole thing. How do you feel about the current ratio of district administrators to classroom teachers in the classroom? Would you propose any changes?
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, I mean, this is already on my hand, and she's correct. We did have a recent presentation, and we did have a recent approval, if you will, of an additional administrator. And, from my standpoint, I'm comfortable with what we are doing. However, I've been a big proponent for years to seek, external resources to validate what we're doing. We've done the study in Illinois. I'd be open to a study of national trends. What are other school districts around the country doing? Particularly ones that are performing well. Do we have a similar ratio? Do we have a different ratio? What can we do to mimic what is best practice? What can we do to learn from those who are doing it, conceivably better than us? And so that would be really my only suggestion. I don't know that I'm no educational expert, as I said earlier. I'm a finance guy. I'm a finance geek, actually. But I would be very open to having some consultation so we can learn better on what we do going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Would anyone like to use the rebuttal? Sandra?
I just think it's important to make sure that it's fully explained, the additional administrator. So we have just approved, right, thanks to you guys, the referendum. So that adds a lot of extra work. So what we're doing is we're adding, the recommendation was to add an administrator to help lighten the load across all the administrators at the district office. And then in addition to that, we're gonna continue to evaluate all of the level of administrators over the next few years, and likely that will change. And we'll find other ways to reduce administrators once the referendum is put in place.
Thank you. Any other rebuttal on that one? All right, moving on. Our next question. Please provide your opinion about the implementation of early release days this school year.
Ouch.
This question goes to Katie.
We do.
Softball for you, Katie.
All right, so, as a parent, I get it, going to school for, now 3 hours a day, doesn't feel like a full day of school. And I understand that. As a board member, I understand, and sitting through our teacher contract negotiations, the importance of professional development and the impact that has on our teachers and how that trickles down to our students. The work that is being done in those days, while I get inconvenient on the end of your kids coming home at 10:30 or 11 o'clock in the morning, is going to impact your children positively in the long run with the professional development that our teachers are getting during that important time.
Thank you, Katie. Harathi.
I agree, as a parent, it is a little bit, frustrating, but I do understand that at least we get notice, and I think that helps. I'm a planner, so we have the ability to plan ahead. I think a lot of the initiatives that the district is focusing on in terms of diversity and equity and culturally, reducing implicit bias and things like that, the educators need the time to be able to learn this material, and they're all parents, most of them, and they want to spend time with their families as well, so they need to be able to work around and find ways to do that during the hours of the year. So, I feel like I can see both sides, so I agree with Katie.
Would anyone like to use the rebuttal?
Come on, guys. All right, I'll do it.
Deanna?
So at the last, board meeting, I know Craig, he did say we're gonna get family input on this, so I think there's a survey going out or something like that. But there was another administrator that came to the meeting from another school district, and she was just saying that it seemed like we had a lot more, in-service days or early release days than other school districts. So this is something that we need to look into. She said we have 5 staff and service days, 1 to 2 conference, full learning days, 4 early release days, and 36 early dismissal days, because we do have to remember, we have early dismissal on Wednesdays.
Anyone else? All right, move forward. What do you feel are the specific programs or attributes that differentiate the district and draw residents here that you will protect and continue? Are there any that you feel should be changed? This question goes to Aaron.
So we have so many unique customized programs, but I had several calls over the years as a board member from parents who were not living in the state, not Chicago, some not even in the country. I think I got a call from Australia saying, can you please tell me about the Chinese immersion program? I think that the fact that we were able to keep it when it wasn't state supported anymore is huge. And we just graduated our first couple of classes of kindergartners who went from Chinese immersion all the way through high school. And so being able to be, I'm learning from my daughter and my son. They're giving me, actually my daughter, she's like, every time you get a Chinese character right, I'm going to give you a hug. So they're teaching me. And same goes for our dual language, our Spanish immersion programs. I think those language programs where you can be fully immersed, almost as if you're in another country, speaking that language half the day is unique, and I would love to see those continue.
Thank you, Aaron. Steve?
So, I'll echo what Aaron said. I mean, are you sure these questions are written actually? 'Cause- No, it's hard for me to answer this one actually because as a CI parent, I'm totally supportive of CI, as you can imagine. But that said, you know, there are amazing programs throughout. You know, dual language, Sandra mentioned K-Lab, with an extensive STEM program. We have programs here that make us a destination. Folks, myself included, moved to Barrington for this school district, for all the things it offers, for the amazing educators, for the amazing opportunities, and for the, you know, downstream impacts to your life going forward. You know, I'll be honest with you, I don't know that there's anything that I would really change. If anything, it would be, you know, trying to find ways that we can enhance, you know, maybe we need to reshuffle some funding, perhaps, particularly as it relates to demand, because some programs have more demand than others. But no, I don't think there's anything that I would change at all, actually. You know, as I said, from a finance guy, I will find ways to make things work. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any rebuttal? Rafi?
I agree that Chinese immersion and dual language are excellent programs. Being on the Barrington Council for Gifted and Talented Board, I feel like that our extended services are something that need to be enhanced. This past year, every 5 years, the district employs Northwestern to do a study to evaluate our services, and I feel as though those recommendations weren't taken into account. One of the biggest frustrations that many parents in extended have in middle school is that there are no extended social studies services. And my daughter currently is in 5th grade, learning 7th grade political science, and when she gets to middle school, she will most likely have to repeat and learning all of that content. So otherwise, if we can find a flexible way to challenge them with something like debate, or find something else, like maybe they get an additional coat time so she can do choir and band. So just trying to meet the needs of all of the diverse learners, I feel like that's an area that we can improve on.
Thank you, Rafi. Any other rebuttal? All right, our next question. School safety is a part of our strategic vision. What initiatives would you expand, change, or implement? This question goes to Sandra.
All right, well, feeling safe at school is very, very important, and that comes in many forms. We can talk about gun safety, we can talk about just feeling safe with your peers and your educators. So we've talked a lot today about social emotional learning and belonging. Our campaign, I think it was last year, was We Belong, right? Or maybe it was 2 years ago now. This year it's the place to be, and really, again, focusing on every student has a place in this district. Every student there's curriculum. You've heard a lot about the different curriculum choices. There's a lot of choices for kids, and a lot of different things that they can learn about and choose to learn about. With respect to physical safety, we have, in this new referendum, we're increasing safety and security at all of the schools. Last referendum, we built a foundation which we can build on now consistently across each of the schools. So we'll continue to monitor and make sure that our students are safe as well as belong. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Deanna?
Okay, so I was talking to some parents the other day, and they were concerned about iPad usage at home. So I know some of the elementary students, they would have YouTube on their iPad, and they're like, why do we need to have YouTube? I don't want my third grader to have access to YouTube. So that's just something that maybe we can look at, security of, social media and devices security. I don't know if when you're at home, if it's just on our own networks, but I'm sure there's some kind of security going on with the school district, but we can definitely look into that. In addition, I'm a huge safety, security person, and I know the school district has done a great job. I know Craig, they found out there was a past student that came into the school, and they're taking care of it. They're increasing their security measures, and so the school district addresses this, and so, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. Any rebuttal? All right. Next question. What role do you believe the school board should play in addressing issues like mental health, bullying, and student wellness? And what concrete actions would you take? This question goes to Steve.
Hey, Chris, can you do me a favor, repeat the last part of it? I'm sorry, I heard bullying, mental health, and what was the third
Sure
one?
thing. Addressing issues like mental health, bullying, and student wellness, and what concrete actions would you take?
Fantastic, okay, thank you. Yeah, actually, here's what I'll say. I don't know that this Board of Education should be the ones facilitating the actual work, but we certainly need to support our administration, our parents, and all those involved to ensure that, our students do, have a space that's, safe for them, free of bullying, that they're able to maintain their mental health, and that they're able to facilitate, proper student wellness. We don't really actually have a chassis kind of in place, in my opinion, to facilitate this, and that's our DEI committee. We do fantastic work in that committee to ensure inclusivity and the like, and what I would like to see is expansion of it to make sure that we, embrace students who are on that fringe, who are marginalized, or, don't feel like they belong. I know Dr. Rouse has work, plenty of work on his plate, but I do think that this is an important element, because this will be something that will, not only ensure proper learning, but also prevent hopefully tragedies moving forward. So, thank you.
Steve, Deanna.
Okay, this is something that's just near and dear to my heart. I think, we should have more parental connection, different, experts to come in and talk about mental health, talk about anxiety, talk about depression. I'm hearing a lot of this in the schools. There's a tragedy earlier this month. Hopefully, I don't know if it could have been avoided. But I think, there's always more we can do. There's more we can do in teaching our teachers. I mentioned the lunch and learns. We can have mental health professionals come in and talk about mental health to staff and offer them at all different schools as well. I think this is very important.
Thank you, Deanna. Any rebuttal? Aaron?
So I just wanted to add that when we were looking at the new spaces at Station and Prairie, from our last referendum, collaborative learning spaces, we had 6th graders at the time showing us around, and this student, so animated, named Brandon, was showing us around, and I was like, oh, what elementary did you come from? And he's like, oh, you wouldn't know about it, because it's not in the center. And I was like, what do you mean I don't know? And he's like, oh, it's in Carpentersville. I was like, you went to Sunny Hill? And he's like, you know about Sunny Hill? And I was like, yes, we love Sunny Hill. Sunny Hill is part of our community, and I think that we need to be making sure that our kids are feeling belonging no matter where in this district they are, and that it is indeed, and that we are working hard on transitions Our teachers also want to partner with each other on transitions from elementary to middle school and middle school to high school, but our students as well. We need to give them that sense that they are every part of this district, no matter where they are.
Thank you, Erin. Anyone else? All right, our next question. In what ways do you think the school board can promote lifelong learning and prepare students for future careers, especially in an increasing diverse and global job market? And this goes to Sandra. Of course. In what ways do you think the school board can promote lifelong learning and prepare students for future careers, especially in an increasing diverse and global job market?
All right, well, we definitely have an objective in Framework 220 about future readiness. So we are going to continue learning and growing in that path. I think we already have a lot of great ways for the high school students that we've talked about already to be more prepared for future. We've got career technical services and certifications and dual credit. We have a lot of AP classes. We've talked about a lot of these things already. Another thing the school board can do, and one I think I talked about at the last forum as well, is we can talk about the adults in the community too. Somebody else brought it up here as well. We've got these great facilities, and again, thanks to all of you, that we can do some adult education as well. So it's not just the students in the district, but we can teach the adults. I know there's lots of even former board members that could teach culinary classes, and so there's a lot of opportunity. We can use these facilities around the clock.
Thank you, Sandra. Harathi?
I echo what Sandra has to say, and in addition, I would say, I was looking, over summer course things for my kids, you know, what are we gonna do this summer? I'm a stay-at-home mom, so trying to find ways to expand the horizons, and one thing that I do think we don't tap into enough is Harper College. They offer so many wonderful programs, and I would love to see the district emulate or find ways to work with them, in conjunction with them, not just for summer programs, but for adults as well. So if we can find a way to do that, I think that would be really great.
Thank you, Harathi. Any rebuttal? All right, our next question is, what new initiative or idea would you bring to the board if elected, and how would it benefit the students and staff of D220? This question goes to Katie.
What new idea or initiative would I bring to the board? That was the question.
Yes, new initiative or idea that you bring to the board, and how would it benefit the students and staff?
Okay, I kind of want to go off of the question right before. I think we actually have an opportunity to partner with local businesses and experts in their field more. Like, for instance, Wickstrom has just offered, they gave us a car that we have students that get to go on and work on the car and have real life experience. And I think we should be doing more of that, reaching out to more local businesses, local entrepreneurs, local business people, and letting them bring their ideas and ways to engage our students more in real world experience and help them get a kickstart on future readiness and future career opportunities that they may not have been introduced to.
Katie, Aaron?
All right, sorry.
I want to use 15 seconds to add on that, shout out to Prairie, because with my anecdote on belonging, they have started a student belonging group, and it is our intention as a district to spread these student belonging groups throughout our school, to Station and to other schools, so that students are really initiating, creating a sense of belonging for their fellow students, and creating empathy. Around a new objective, this is nascent, but we have an AI, artificial intelligence task force. And what I love about our school district is that artificial intelligence and AI, it seems really scary. And when you think about AI in schools, you think, okay, as long as like our student isn't running their 10 10-page essay through ChatGPT or creating it through ChatGPT. It's okay. But I think our approach is really great because we're not looking at it just purely punitively. There is that element, right, where we don't want AI to write everything for us, but we're also using it to figure out how do we enhance students' learning? How do teachers give feedback that they maybe otherwise can't throughout the process? And I would like to see us dive more into AI as a learning initiative.
Aaron, any rebuttal? All right, next question. What, if any, of the actions taken by District 220 School Board over the last several years do you disagree with? And what would you change once elected? This question goes to Sandra.
Well, as a board member, one of the first things that you learn is, and Katie talked about it earlier too, once a decision is made, you agree with that decision as a board member and you go on to the next thing. So, there are, I mean, what did I disagree with? I think probably, the thing that I was very passionate about that I, wanted to talk more about was, really looking at the elementary space. That was something that, I was the down vote on, and I think that's something we need to continuously monitor. We do that through, our demographers, and we take a look at that, and we're continuously evaluating enrollment, as you guys hear over and over again. But I think, I'm just gonna go back to, how well this board has been working together. We've had some votes in the last couple of even months where we disagreed, and we did it maturely, we did it in a way that we even had to come back and reverse the decision in one instance. I think collaboration is very important, and I'm proud of the way that this board does collaborate.
Thank you, Sandra. Harasi.
I'm gonna ask you to repeat again, I didn't know.
Of course. What, if any, actions taken by District 220 School Board over the last several years do you disagree with? And what would you change once elected?
I can't think of one specific thing that I disagree with, but I would say that I'm a big proponent of safety, as I mentioned regarding, Barrington Leaf for Be Smart for Kids, and I feel like more can be done with collaboration with not only the police department, but community organizations on educating the community about secure firearm storage. Being that we want to be the district that's constantly innovating and being the destination district in that area, we do lag behind. If you look, like Stevenson in 2022 sent out an email promoting health and safety and had a link for Be Smart secure gun storage on their website. St. Charles passed something in District 303 where actually the King County Sheriff and the mayor wrote a letter to the school board asking them to pass the secure firearm resolution and educate the community. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. These resources are available. It's a nonpartisan issue. If we're talking about mental health in this district, and it's such an important aspect of preventing teen self-harm and also just keeping everyone in our community safe. So even recently, District 211 has a link to secure firearm storage. Arlington Heights works with local police department on gun buybacks, and that's something that this whole board's actively involved in. So that's the one that I
Thank you, Harasi. Would anyone like to rebut? All right, we'll move on. How would you approach a vote you are against? This question starts with Katie.
I agree with Steve, are these random? Okay, I mean, anyone out here tunes into our board meetings, I've been in this position many a time. So I think it comes down to civil discourse, state your opinion. Again, we're 7 individuals tasked with representing an entire community. So we're not always gonna agree, and isn't that the purpose of having 7 people up there? And Sandra said it too, you state your opinion, you make your case, the vote goes, sometimes it goes your way, more often than not it doesn't, but then you have to move on, because if I sit stuck in a place of losing, then what's the point? I mean, you have to then come to a compromise, move on, make the best of the situation, and get on with the business of helping run the district.
Thank you, Aaron.
If you've been to our board meetings, you know that most of the time when we're asked to vote, it's a yes. One thing that I think is instructive is that when we do disagree, and we, collected all of those opinions and listened to stakeholders and we're still a no vote, is to explain our no vote. I think that the community deserves to know why we're voting the way we do and why we're going against the majority of the board. But like my board colleague said, once a decision is made, we're one of 7, and that's the voice of the board. And so we need to respect that decision. We can explain why we disagree, but we need to agree that that is our decision as a board. And like Sandra said, the last split vote we had, there was not a ton of emotion attached to it. We disagreed for various reasons, and we said, okay, this was the majority vote, and then we moved on and we adjusted when we needed to adjust.
Thank you, Aaron. Any rebuttal? All right. What role does the Board of Education have in ensuring district administration is aware of and addressing community concerns? This question goes to Deanna.
Can you repeat the question?
What role does the Board of Education have in ensuring district administration is aware of and addressing community concerns?
Okay, I mean, just being in the community, living in the community, having a lot of friends in the community, neighbors, I think it's very important for us as we hear feedback from everybody, making sure that administration is aware of something that's an issue in the community, So I think it's very important that we communicate that to our administrator, our superintendent rather, because I think that's who the board directs as the superintendent, and the superintendent would then communicate that to the proper administrator.
Thank you, Deanna. Steve?
Yeah, absolutely right. As far as, the role of a board member, we're not the executors here. We're we're kind of the conduit. And so as it relates to questions, concerns, or any sort of matter that, is something that administration needs to address, our job is to make sure that the proper administrators are identified, number one. But number two, we know where to direct the question and where the questioning individual to. And to Deanna's point, sometimes this is the superintendent, and sometimes this is to directly to the administrator, talking to the superintendent, making sure that the proper folks are brought into the conversation. As we've talked about kind of ad nauseam at this stage, the Board of Education is in that mezzanine, if you will, and our role is to ensure that there's this great communication, but also to govern from above as well. And so, the broader, role that we have is making sure that these needs are met and working with administration to follow up as needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any rebuttal? Okay. Fortunately, we have a couple of questions gathered from the audience that are prioritized based on frequency as well as to eliminate repetition. We're going to ask each candidate to answer in a very tight 30 seconds before we move to closing statements. Again, the candidates will be called to answer in random order. So this is 2 questions, 2 separate questions. The first question is, what do other districts do better than 220? And what will you do to bring those strengths here? And we're going to start with Steve.
I'm sorry, did you say 30 seconds?
I did.
Okay. Wow, all right. Okay. Yeah, I know, seriously. Well, as I said, we have incredible districts. However, like any one industry, myself included, there's always opportunity to grow. So, my suggestion is always partnership, communication, and being humble and being willing to learn. So my suggestion would be making sure that we engage with those better districts in whatever field or area it is, and learning. And then, like I said, we have a very capable administration. I'm very fully confident that they know what they're doing and that we can support them in their endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Deanna?
Okay, well, coming from one of the top school districts, Stevenson, 125, and also working in District 211. But, you know, we've done lots there at Stevenson. I've seen the culture, the climate, the classrooms, administration, the staff, you know, the secretaries, everything. So just bringing those ideas, the one thing that I mentioned was the lunch and learns. I love that. That's a pretty easy thing to implement at all schools.
Harasi.
I would say that one thing that our district could improve on is, engaging the community with the multicultural aspect. So we already have all these amazing programs with dual language and Chinese immersion, but I don't feel like it's celebrated enough as a district as a whole, that we could have a community-wide event where we're celebrating, you know, Lunar New Year, or, you know, Cinco de Mayo, things like that, where we can bring the community together, which would really promote these programs and probably increase enrollment as well, and make people want to come to our district.
Thank you, Harasi. Katie?
You know, as Steve said, we have a great district, but can we always do better? Of course. We have a great partnership with LUDA, large unit districts. And so we're always communicating, our administration is, that there's always something to learn from other districts. And let's just take the recent auditorium. We were able to tour other schools, see their auditorium, see what worked for them, see what didn't work for them. I mean, there's no reason to not be able to take what other districts are doing better and try to make it work here as well.
Katie? Sandra?
Thank you. So quite often, Barrington 220 is the model for other districts, but we can also obviously learn from other districts as well. One of the things that I did over the past couple of years is talking to some other board presidents, as I'm able to do, brought back the communication and norms for the board. And so we modified over the past 4 years how we go about and document those norms and expectations. And that's something that was able to learn from other districts.
Sandra? Aaron?
So when I went to III, which are districts with school board members from districts all over Illinois, there's more than 850 of them, we learned that Belleville, also like us, had a We Belong campaign in their school district, but they got buy-in from their community. So everybody was involved in this initiative of belonging. And they had t-shirts. I mean, who doesn't love merch? I think maybe we have more district-wide merch. And one thing that we could think of, and a community member brought this up, is a district-wide multicultural fair, which some of our schools are doing already, but we can partner with even more.
Thank you, Aaron. All right. Another question with a tight 30-second answer. Please explain why you would or would not continue to support district DEI initiatives. Let's start with Sandra.
Okay, so I fully support the district's DEI initiatives. And part of the Framework 220, we have an inclusive learning objective. And in there, we talk about not just the students, but also the training of the staff. Having been a parent of the dual language program, we learn not just about different language in our home, but we also learn about other cultures and respecting others. And I think that that's very important, and I'll continue to support.
Thank you, Sandra. Steve?
Okay, you know, similarly, I support the DEI programs that we have. However, what I would say is, time for us to evolve a little bit too. I mentioned in an earlier answer, you know, how we can support, or excuse me, how we can maintain mental health, student wellness, minimize bullying. I mean, I think the DEI committee would be a perfect, you know, place for us to utilize, or excuse me, addressing those matters that we have right now. I think the work that Dr. Ross is doing is wonderful. However, like I said, I do think it's time for us to evolve, continue to transform when we're changing districts, and utilize the committee better. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Deanna?
Okay, I think we need to continue fostering a community of student belonging, an inclusive climate and environment. I think we need to celebrate and recognize our differences, whether in race, ability, or creed. And also, I know as part of our strategic plan, the inclusive education, and also funding can be related to this. The Illinois State Report Card has DEI as part of how they evaluate our schools in our district.
Thank you, Deanna. Harathi?
I fully support in enhancing our DEI efforts. I don't believe that you can work on mental health or any of these other issues if you don't focus on DEI. You need to foster a culture of respect, but also create a sense of belonging, and those things are intertwined. So I think we definitely need to continue to focus our efforts and make sure that we have a diverse community, 40% people of color, so we need to understand the impact that DEI has on mental health in our community.
Thank you, Harathi. Katie?
One of the committees that we get to rotate through is our district equity team, and I echo they are doing some great work, especially from, as Aaron brought up, the Belonging Club, to help students, who might be struggling. One area I'd like to see improvement of is our largest population is the 18% of students in student services on IEPs, and I feel that they're one of our largest groups that could be served better by our district equity team.
And Aaron?
Seeing as that I brought up the word belonging about 25 times today, I definitely support our diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And not only that, I think that it should be at the core and one of the lenses through which we do things. And one of the things that we've integrated in is hiring. Inclusive hiring is within one of our pillars of inclusive education. And we've partnered with historically Black colleges and universities in ways that we haven't partnered before my term on the board. And we have our Grow Your Own program, and so it's important to reflect the demographics of our district.
Thank you, Aaron. All right. Each candidate was asked to prepare a 30-second closing statement. We're going to start with Harathi.
Go fast, all right. I feel like my training in my previous career as a nurse has empowered me to advocate effectively for my community. As an empath, I make time to advocate for all those in our community, speaking against injustice, rallying the community around a worthy cause, and actively listening and initiating change in our community. I am ready to have the drive, dedication, and passion to serve, and I genuinely care about this community, and I'm invested in its success, and I'm ready to continue to prepare to equip our students with the best tools to succeed and give back to our community. So I hope you for support.
Thank you, Harathi. Deanna.
Hi. Okay, obviously I feel very passionate about keeping District 220 a premier destination to live and raise a family. As a former special education teacher, I bring an inside perspective that no other board member has. I'm working at many different schools. I also have the time, talent, and experience and investment in our school district. I promise to advocate for all voices of the community: mental health, school safety, future career readiness, special ed, fiscal responsibility. Deanna for 220.com.
Thank you, Deanna. Sandra.
Thank you. In my service, I've built a deep connection to both the schools and to the community, and I've developed an expertise in compromise and collaboration. If reelected, I will continue to make a positive impact on our district, and I have a responsibility to do so. I'm committed to making decisions that are in the best interest of the students, the staff, and the community. Every board member brings a wealth of expertise and commitment and varied perspectives to this role, and I believe that our board's diverse opinions and backgrounds work to the benefit of the entire community. I will continue to serve this community and our rivers. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Aaron.
Thank you all so much for this morning of robust discussion. If there's one thing I realized these past 4 years when it comes to equality that makes for an effective school board member, it's collaboration with students, parents, families, educators, administrators, and community members. As a board member, I am one of 7, and we must collaborate to get things done for our community. I'm committed to continuing this collaboration, and I'm deeply honored to ask for your support for another term. I invite you to check out aaronfor220.com to connect and find out more.
Thank you, Aaron. Katie.
Thank you all for going on this journey with us. The heart of Barrington is our schools. I fully understand the importance of volunteer efforts that help keep our district running, and I'm grateful that I've been elected to serve the entire district for the last 4 years. I would love the opportunity to use the knowledge that has taken years to accumulate. I know I have more to offer our community, and I'm proud that I've been able to show my children what it means to stand up for what you believe in, to effectively communicate, to compromise, and to give back to the community that helped raise you. I'd be honored to continue to represent the voice of parents, students, and taxpayers.
Katie, Steve?
Chris, can I just have a rebuttal? Extra 30 seconds, please? Oh, yeah. Okay, well, anyways, thank you again to the PTO presidents, Barrington Area Library, and those of you watching, as well as my fellow candidates here. This election is not on a singular matter. It is about the legacy that we built that is exciting, though still challenging time in our history. This board will need to make tough decisions over the next 4 years. There will be times we will get uncomfortable, and there will be times where I'm sure there will be disagreements. The last 40 years on this board, and 20 years professionally, I've built relationships and through headwinds to provide positive outcomes. This is why we're the board, and this is where experience matters. So I know it's gonna be hard, and I choose hard. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to thank each of the candidates for taking time to participate in this candidate forum. Thank you so much to Chris Bibby for being the moderator and volunteering your time today to help conduct a smooth running forum during this just over 2 hour period. We truly appreciate it. Thank you all for attending today. It is our hope that the information discussed today will give you a better understanding of the Board of Education candidates, positions, and their roles. Please remember to vote on or before April 1st for the 4 open candidate positions. Thank you very much.